Hi, uh, Derek here. I wanted to really give you an idea how to count carbohydrates in food. This isn't about why you need to count carbohydrates. It's about for those of you who've already know you want to count carbohydrates and you want to figure out, gosh, what's in the food I'm eating or I'm about to eat, then this is what you need to do. Mostly you'll be eating food that doesn't have a label. I'll show you some labels later on, particularly YGY labels that are important to know about. But because you're eating food that doesn't have a label, it doesn't say, I've got this many carbohydrates in it. So you have to use Google. And the specific way to use Google to do that is to type in the word nutrition. And you can see I've already done some there because I've practiced this talk before. But I like starting with apples. So let's look at that. Excuse me. And so when you type in nutrition and the word apple, whatever you want to search for, you can use the word nutrition or whatever word you're looking at. And then you'll more than likely get a drop-down menu like this, whatever it's called, sidebar. That's what I think it's called, sidebar. Called this. It's got all lots of useful information, and you can actually change the amount you're eating because no one's going to eat 100 grams of apple. So, but you might eat a medium apple, and then you can tell, gosh, 25 grams of carbohydrate. And if you've decided you were on a limit of 20 grams of carbohydrate a day, then you've already blown it. And you do need to count the total carbohydrates. Excuse me, there was an earlier thought that you took out the dietary fiber and worked with the net carbohydrates. So you took this figure off of the 25, but really it's best to work with total carbohydrates. And Dr. Eric Westman has pioneered that 20 years of clinical research, working with this whole idea of we're actually working with people, not just research, but in a clinical practice at Duke University. Used to work with net carbohydrates, now works with total. So, as I say, an apple a day doesn't keep a doctor away. And then, so you're looking at, if you're looking at low carb, you're generally looking at above ground veggies. Let's look at broccoli. And one of the things you need to know about veggies is that they all have carbohydrates. And let's look at a cup of chopped broccoli because that's easy for us to measure and think about. It has 6 grams of carbohydrate. Now, one of the things with cooking veggies is you essentially double the carbohydrate content. That's why carrots get sweeter when you cook because just they're more available. And so 6 can easily become 10 or 12. So you need to keep that into account. And one simple way to work with that is even to avoid counting altogether, if you look at 1 cup of cooked above ground veggies a day, then you're around about 10 and 10 to 12, 14, depending on what, like, because you can look at other veggies. Let's look at, say, onion. It's my favorite one of a lot of people. And you change it again to, let's go to small onion, because most people could chew down a small onion. 7 grams, so that becomes 14 grams. So that's where we say 1 cup of mixed above ground veggies will get you about under 20 grams a day, and that includes your allowed, you could look at cheese. You're allowed 120 grams of cheese a day. Let's look at cheese. That's Colby. Colby's a pretty standard cheese. And sometimes that did come up great. So let's look at 100 grams. So you've got 2.6 grams of carbohydrates. So that's why you need to limit the cheese in your diet. So 1 cup of above ground veggies, cooked, a couple of cups of salad if you're into salad, and keep your cheese down to 100, 120 grams they recommend, and cream no more than like 50 mils. So let's look at cream so you can get an idea of that. Best cream is double cream, really, isn't it? .8 grams, so just a gram of carbohydrate. And let's see if cream's got bit more, just so as you can see this, because often people think that cream and cheese are free, because they're just protein and fat, but no, there is actually carbohydrate in there. And again, you can see heavy whipping cream. I'm not going to dig into this, but one thing I will show you in terms of digging in, if nothing comes up on the right here, you can go to, I know nothing comes up with this. Obviously, we don't eat bread. Doc doesn't work with bread, and I've been wheat free for donkey's years. But what I do, if you can't see anything coming up on the right, so it's easy to access, I always look for this site, nutritiondata.self.com, and then you go to that, and from here you'll see, sorry about the little slow internet here, you'll see this comes up. There's an ad, you just scroll past the ad. It's already plugged in at one slice of bread, and whether you're eating white bread or whole grain bread, it's essentially the same for bread. And if you scroll down, you can get to the carbohydrates, and the total carbohydrate, nearly 12 grams. So, roughly you can say for a slice of bread, you're looking at 12 to 15 grams of carbohydrate, just to give you an idea. But I wanted to, obviously I'm not recommending you eat that, just showing you that if you can't get what you're looking at showing up from the right sidebar, look for that nutrition self site. One more thing I want to show you. Often people look at alcohol and wonder what they can drink. Wine, if you look at one serving, 5 fluid ounces, that's 150 mils. Got 4 grams of carbohydrate. Obviously the sweet wines, the Moscatos, have a lot more, so stay away from those. The liqueurs have a lot more sugar in them, so stay away from those. Some people recommend more the clean ones like vodka, whiskey, brandy, all those kind of things. But then what do you put with them is the question. And the other thing about alcohol is that does that lead to to harder drugs, in the sense that does that lead to more carbohydrates? So can you drink a glass of wine and not get tempted by another glass or dessert or chocolate or whatever? So you've got to really think about that. And the whole idea is you've got a carb budget, so you need to fit within that. So sometimes you might skip the veggies, have a glass of wine. Chocolate is a favorite for a lot of people, and one of the reasons I recommend Lindt, 90% chocolate, is 1 square of Lindt 90% chocolate has about 1.5 grams of carbohydrate. So you can add a little bit of chocolate into your diet and still get within tight carbohydrate levels. So hopefully that's got you clear on what to do. Basically go to Google nutrition, the food you want, and then if you've got a food with a label on it, it's easy, just look at the labels. And this is where you need to know that supplements aren't scot-free. Here's Tangy Tangerine, and 2 scoops of Tangy Tangerine has 7 grams of carbohydrate. So that's where I tend to limit I love Tangy, so that's where I tend to limit it to 1 scoop a day. And if I'm wanting more Tangy, I'll use the supplements in the Tangy in a tablet form, because there's only micronutrients in that. There's no macronutrients, so no carbohydrate, proteins, or fats. And so you do need to take care of your supplements. Tangy is probably one of the 90, that's the one that's got the most carbohydrates. The Beyond Osteo FX doesn't have too much, it's like 1 gram in a serving. So probably not, you could include that, but Tangy you do need to watch out for, particularly if you're doing it to body weight. So there you go, hopefully that's helped, and make Google your friend. And otherwise, just that whole idea of one thing to add, if you're going to look at the whole idea of eating veggies and limiting your veggies, then you look at 1 cup of above ground cooked veggies a day will be a really simple way to do it. Also, when you're through to the point of where you want to, say, increase your carb intake by 5 grams a day, so try, if you've been doing 20 grams, and if that's been working well for you, you want to add another 5 grams in for a week and test your results. Do you get less hungry, more hungry? Does your energy increase or get worse? And does your waistline reduce? Those are the 3 measurements, in terms of an internal reference point you want to look at. And if everything's tracking well and you want to test out what your carbohydrate tolerance level is, a good rule of thumb is to go 5 grams a day for a week. So for all the time you've been doing really well, you've been losing, losing hunger, gaining energy, losing weight, or losing waistline, and then you want to test out how much carbohydrates you can actually add in. So you add in an extra 5 grams, not each day, but for a week. So instead of 20 grams, you're having 25 grams, and you do that a day for a week, and then you look at those things again: your hunger, your energy levels, and your waste, your waste management, and see if it's all looking still good and going on track. Then you can try another 5 grams, go up to 30. And one simple way to do that, I wanted to show you this, is just simply blueberries, because most you can buy frozen blueberries. And basically, if you're looking at blueberries, and if you measure a cup, and that's 21 grams of total carbohydrates, so 5 grams is a quarter of that. So a quarter of a cup of blueberries is one simple way to really do that, increasing the 5 grams a day. And hopefully that will give you a ton of them. It's just really simple stuff, but it's about each of us really getting clear on what's in foods that we're eating and not deluding ourselves. And once you're clear on it, once you've committed it to memory and you've done that a few times, you will know what works, what is in a certain food and what isn't. And if you do need to remind yourself, come back to this search. Okay. Good luck with everything, and bye for now.